圣诞要到了，我相信大家应该参加很多的 Secret Santa 或者是礼物交换的活动 But chances are you may not get the gift you like. 那怎么辦呢？那今天我跟 Nick 就来分享我们的小故事，还有一些有用的 tips and tricks.Hello， 欢迎来到 Executive Plus 主管与沟通力的 Podcast。I'm Sherry, an educator, certified coach, and style enthusiast. 我相信专业有效的沟通是语言跟逻辑的完美结合。
And I'm Nick, a startup consultant, corporate trainer, and late-night gaming junkie. I believe great communication requires the right mindset and solid frameworks.
我们希望带给大家职场英语的技能、跨文化沟通技巧与其他能帮助您成为出色领导者的工具。
Join us each week as we share our experience, research, and methodologies to take your communication and language skills from good to great. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Executive Plus podcast. It's that time of year, the holidays. We just passed Thanksgiving, heading into Christmas, and soon Chinese New Year. Well, this is about the time where everyone's stress levels go up because you're supposed to buy gifts. But what you buy and what you get may not always be the best. So today, rather than share with you how do you show your gratitude and happiness at a gift that you love, what happens when you get a gift you don't like, but you don't want to hurt someone's feelings? How do you talk about that? And in the meantime, Sherry and I might share a few of the worst gifts that we've gotten and how we reacted.
因为我发现在台湾，我们并不是每一个家庭都那么有习惯的会 give Christmas gift。但是因为这个节气的关系，或者是在上班呢，我们常常很多 office 就会有这种 Secret Santa, right? You exchange gift and then you have a party together. 那这个时候，当然，如果是 Secret Santa，你没有办法真的去准备说，诶，这个人到底真的会喜欢什么 and I'm gonna give it to them. 尤其是在这种 exchange 的时候 Isn't there like a game where you exchange gift, but you can
it's called
like...
a white elephant.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And so one of two ways is like either you set a really low budget and then people just look for maybe the most ridiculous gift they can get for that budget. The other way you do it is you actually seek out things in your house. So growing up, my grandparents did this every year with their friends. And like they had maybe 12 to 15 other couples and they would all come together and they would just do a white elephant. And the rule was literally you go, you find something in your house that you don't want anymore.
Really?
And then you bring it and you wrap it. And it becomes a really funny game because people just end up with the most ridiculous things.
Right. Because I know when I was in the States, I joined that kind of white elephant party before, and people would trick you to get their gift. So they would like wrap the gift in a really big box, but really it's a teeny tiny thing in the center. But they just want to trick you. Anyway, so what happens is that you may or may not get the gift that you like, right? 你常常会拿到一些礼物就是很 ridiculous, 而且你可能根本也不是非常喜欢。但是你不想要让对方很难过啊 You don't want to hurt people's feeling 但是在当下你拿到礼物你拆开来然后觉得 Oh my God, I don't like this 但是你要说什么呢 Like what would you say in that moment?
There's two paths to go after this, which is you can be very ambiguous and just kind of leave it as a general feeling of, for example, you might be like, wow, this is really unique. It's not really a compliment, but it doesn't sound terribly like, oh, this is such a special gift. Like, oh, it's so special, right? So one option is you just become very general. You use terms that are not specifically negative, but they're also not praise. So you don't feel your life like, oh my God, I love it. Please never buy this for me again. But if you're like, oh, wow, it's really unique.
So you're using words that are not, it's neutral.
It's very neutral.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do is you can say something that's very neutral. Like, for example, oh, I know just what to do with this. Put it in the trash.
or give it to someone else.
Yeah, hide this in the back of my closet. It's like, I know just what I'm going to do with this.
But what I usually do is I would actually go the other route. So Nick talked about being very ambiguous, right? 比较模棱两可。但是呢，我呢会比较 specific。我很喜欢 point out 这种很具体的一个，比如说颜色好了 ，about colors， or 我可以把它用在什么的情况之下 ，like I would say, oh my god, I love the color. The color is so beautiful. It may not be like clothing, but I would talk about the color. But sometimes I would say, oh, I can probably use this in the office. I think that's really useful. Thank you.
So again, you're being specific about something that's good about the item, but it's not like, oh, I love this thing.
No.
It's more, this is what I could do
exactly.
with this thing.
Yeah. I don't know how to lie. I really don't know how to look at people and be like, I love it. But really in my heart, I was like, no, I hate it. I can't say that, but I think just be very, for me, it's like being very specific with like the characteristics of the gift. I think that worked for me in the past.
Yeah, and I think it's a tricky balance because, again, you don't want to hurt their feelings, but I think a lot of people get themselves into trouble because they're like, oh, I love this, or thank you so much, it's so wonderful, you really know me. That will trigger the person to go, I know what to get them every year now. Right? Because in general, a lot of us are not professional gift givers. So if we know there are themes that people like, we will just buy them things in that theme. Well, if there's something they don't like, you may be buying them the same theme over and over again. The example I give of this, and maybe a bit controversial, is Taiwan has a lot of great food. So one of the first things that Taiwanese always give to foreigners as a gift will be things like mooncake or pineapple cake. And yeah, there are instances where I know people who just love pineapple cake, love mooncake, or love certain kind of teas. But it may not be for everyone. But of course, when you're receiving a gift, a lot of people want to be polite. Oh, it's like, oh, it's great. Oh, it's so delicious. It's so good. And then year after year after year, people, they'll be like, I'll send them pineapple cakes or send them moon cakes. But then the reality is like, they don't love it to the point where like, okay, I look forward every year to this thing.
I mean, okay, so this brings up a really good topic. 当我们要送礼物给外国人好了，到底如果我又对这个人不是那么的熟悉，我不太知道这个人的喜好，但是我又想要做这种 as a host， 我想要表现一下，就是 I want to be generous and I want to give gift to this friend, a new friend of mine, and he happens or she happens to be a foreigner. So what do you think would be the best or the safest gift to give it to a foreigner?
I'm not dissuading people from, I think the food is great. Certain snacks, although you really should see how sort of courageous or ambitious people are with food, because people have different food preferences. Tea is always a good one. I think tea is good just because it preserves a long time, but it is one of those things where not everyone can handle whether it's like the bitterness or like the straight taste of tea. So you really need to just see how open people are to different foods. And I think this is more about gauging someone's reaction. But I do think there are things that are very uniquely Taiwan that people really enjoy. Like for me, I actually love the tea culture thing. And one thing I've always really wanted is, you go into a very traditional business or you go into like a very traditional family and they have that tea set and they pour tea and like, it's always like, I think that process is just really cool. And like, I always feel like I want to do that someday. I want to have my little tea station and then you just like have a meeting and pour people tea. So I think things like this that can feel very cultural, but maybe to Taiwanese, maybe it's like, oh, it's true. Like my grandparents do that or like very traditional families. But I think for me, especially early on, you just kind of look at that and it's very unique in the way that it feels. Not just the like gift itself, but it's like the way that feels is a really interesting experience.
Right. And I do think from my experience, in terms of food, 真的像不管是 pineapple cake， 大家可能会觉得说，大部分人都还蛮喜欢，但是真的有蛮多外国人他们会很不习惯。 Yeah.
Or it's just like, I don't need a lot. Like one pineapple is great. I don't need a box of 36.
That's true. They just want to take a bite and be like, oh, this is very interesting. And that's it. 尤其是外国人说 interesting 的时候, that means it's not good.
Yeah, that's actually a trick. It's
right?
Like, someone's like, oh, this is so interesting. That's usually...
No.
Again, this is I'm saving face, but I am not going to commit to its good.
Yeah, so I would say tea is definitely the safest one, and 台湾有非常好的茶。但是我会觉得，有的时候如果这个人他并不会泡茶的话，你也知道乌龙茶有的时候需要时间 ，right? It has like a special timing. 我觉得可能可以买一些不太需要那么多程序的茶叶，然后你就可以尝到那个风味。So you do probably have to think about if this person actually understands tea and the tea culture. If not, you buy something that's a little bit safer. But we're talking about Christmas gift. What is the worst gift you have ever gotten in your life?
You asked me this when we were preparing the episode, and I maybe I have just blocked out all the terrible gifts in my life. Or I'm just like, oh, I can't, And that's a good thing, right? Because that also means that short of it just being so horrific that it is deeply etched into your mind. If you give someone a bad gift, they'll get over it. But the easiest thing that comes to me is two things. One is when you have distant relatives who maybe you only see during the holidays. Of course, you want to give gifts, you want to share things. But with distant relatives, they don't know you that well. So you tended to get a lot of clothing, right? And they just go into a store and they kind of ask like, okay, what's popular, what's great? And so you'll get, clothing that you wouldn't necessarily wear or other things. So like the only gift that really stands out to me is the Titanic, the movie soundtrack. My heart will go on. In junior high school, the movie's big. Of course, it comes out. But it's not like a dude movie. And especially I'm not saying if you're a guy, you can't like it. But it's like, as a junior high school guy, this is not like a cool movie for me. Yeah, it's not. And so, I had a relative who they're like, oh, I went to the CD store and they said this is, like the hottest album of
music,
the year. Right? Because of course my heart will go on. It's the top of the charts. Everyone loves it. But again, as a junior high school boy, you get the Titanic soundtrack. You can only be like, oh yeah, I saw it. Oh,
saw the movie.
Yeah, I saw the movie and oh, I know this song. I've definitely heard the song. Yeah. Like everywhere I go, you hear the song. I don't need a soundtrack, but I mean that's the one thing that stands out. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm like you. I had to really think about it. 我觉得我可能已经把很多这样类似像这样 memory 就已经从我脑海里面 delete. 但是我记得我在很小的时候也是一个 relative， 他们到我们家 like my birthday and relative came and she gave me a gift and I remember vividly 我那个时候才几岁我那时候7岁吧 okay I was 7 and I got a gift basically it was something that you put in your pan when you cook an egg it was like 就很像那个好像一个模型然后你把那个鸡蛋打在里面然后那个蛋就会变成圆形I mean, eggs it's already round, right?
Just more perfectly round.
I was 7. I don't cook. I did not cook at the time. I got it. I was like, oh, what is this? And then my relatives was one of my aunts. My relative's daughter, she goes, 我们家不要的东西都拿过来给别人。So awkward. It was so awkward. But yeah, basically that was like my memory of like the
standout gift.
Yeah, but I think what happens is like when it's not a theme. Let's say 我们并没有说这个是 white elephant party, but you still get these kind of people would give you things that they obviously don't want anymore. They got it from someone else. They're just passing on to you. I think that's usually kind of the worst gift.
Yeah, it's definitely the worst gift, but everyone goes in with the mindset of, okay, I'm not going to walk out of here. Oh, It's not the worst gift, but I actually, funny story, when I lived in Chiayi, a friend and I would go to a kind of like a higher end bar. Pretty often, like, they customize over the drinks, but it's Chiayi, so it's cheap and it's awesome. And we used to go there enough that we kind of became friends with the staff and the owner. And so they invited us for like a kind of close friend Christmas party, and they did a white elephant. And they did a game where like you draw a card. So it's not a kind of exchange. Like, you know, there's always like some kind of trick to how you get the gift. So I drew a card, I grabbed a gift, and then got to the end, and you could actually exchange if you want.
Yeah.
And so I drew a card, and I ended up with a digital scale. And so then I'm like, well, I don't care that much about, so I put it back. And then through a series of activities and gifts, I ended up, even though I gave away like 3 times, I ended up with the scale in the end.
You're destined to
Destined. And so that was one of the things where like, all right, fine. I guess I have a scale now.
The universe is telling you something.
So, yeah, I mean, it goes back to white elephants is you kind of get what you get. Now I've gotten cool stuff. Like I ended up when South Park was like a really big thing. I ended up with Kenny, the kid who always dies, like a piggy bank of him. And I actually still have that. So there are certain things that like you get from that, but it's very random. So most of the time you end up with, like a scale.
Should we do this for our office this year?
We can consider it. But I suggest to everyone is like, go do a white elephant, practice your, how do I go? Oh,
yes, yeah.
It's so special.
Oh, I love the color.
Yeah. This white on this scale is so good.
Oh, it's such a beautiful scale.
Yeah.
I can definitely probably put in the office so that you can use it.
Yeah.
All right. I know 今天的 episode 是非常有点 random, but it's for fun. But I think you guys will find it useful.
Yes, and we want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And thank you for being with us during these wonderful year. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Bye. The Executive Plus podcast is a Presentality Group production. Produced and hosted by Sherry Fang and Nick Howard. You can search us on Facebook, 主管英文 Executive Plus. You can also find us on Instagram, Communication R&D, and email us at sherry@epstyleplus.com.